So I'm going to show you three settings that I think you might want to consider changing. The first has to do with what they call conversations. So by default, Gmail is set up that anytime you have a bunch of messages that all come through with a similar content, or if you're in any kind of conversation where you're sending replies back and forth between you and somebody else, they will nest all of those together in what they call a conversation. And so here is a message from YouTube, and it shows me with this little letter 5 here. That means there are actually 5 messages in this conversation. And if I clicked on it and opened it, I can see all of the messages listed out separately. But it's putting all of those together in one line. So instead of 5 separate messages being listed out, it's nesting all of those together in what they call conversations. So there's a setting where I can change that if I don't like that, but it's entirely up to you. And there's a couple other settings I'd recommend you change too. So to get to my settings for my mail, I'm going to click on my gear up here in the corner, and I'm going to go to settings. Now in settings, like I said, there's a whole bunch of different options to choose from. There's 3 things I would point out that I would change or consider changing if you want. Everything else I would leave the same. The first has to do with that conversation view. So about halfway down the page, I can have an option to turn conversation view on or off. If I turn that off, that will split those 5 messages into 5 separate lines. They all come through separately. So it's up to you which way you prefer, but just be aware of it one way or another. The other thing that I would consider is your reply behavior. So a lot of times in first class, people had it set to reply all. What that means is if you're part of a message sent to a bunch of people and you want to reply to everyone, not just the sender, you can set that to be your default, which I would recommend. The other option here, the third one, is one on undo. Now, one of people's favorite features in first class is the ability to unsend a message. And Google doesn't really have that capability. But what they do have is they have an undo option. And what that means is when I send a message, there'll be a little undo button at the top, and I get a certain number of seconds that I get before that message actually gets sent. And I can change the amount of time, but it limits it to 30 seconds tops. So if I set my undo at 30 seconds, that means when I hit send, it'll take 30 seconds for that message to get sent. Once that message is sent, or once the 30 seconds are up, I do not have the ability to undo that message anymore. It is gone. A couple other things that you may want to consider. In my settings, I can change my picture if I haven't done that already. This will change your Google avatar and everything that you do Google, not just email. And then you also have the ability to do email signatures if you want to add a signature to your emails, or if you need vacation responders to let people know when you are not in the building. No matter what changes I make, I need to make sure I go all the way down to the bottom of those settings and click Save Changes for those changes to be applied. Otherwise, it will throw them out the window.